of jets in an open sky, a streak of gray, and a cheerful... A loop, a whirl, and a vertical climb, and once again, you know it's time for... Rocky and his friends.
Growing up in the 1960s was a glorious time for cartoons on television. Not only did we have classic cartoons like Popeye, Bugs Bunny, and Woody Woodpecker, we also had brand new cartoons made strictly for television, like Huckleberry Hound, Quick Draw McGraw, and Yogi Bear.
Look at the bears! Look at the bears! Look at the bears! Shh!
Hey, Pop! Look at the bears! Look at the bears! Look at the bears!
See what I mean, boo-boo?
Of course, we didn't know the difference at the time. They were just great cartoons. Then along came J. Ward Productions, the studio that brought us the fantastically funny and over-the-top cartoon first called Rocky and His Friends in 1959. The show became an instant hit with both children and adults, with intelligent writing and a plethora of puns that appealed to both the younger generation and their parents. The series, created by Alexander Anderson and Jay Ward, was set up like a variety program, with the main focus being the adventures of the two lead characters, Rocket J. Squirrel, also known as Rocky, also known as Rocky the Flying Squirrel, and his talking moose companion, Bullwinkle J Moose, the middle initial J being a reference to creator Jay Ward. Bullwinkle's name was inspired by a car dealer in Berkeley, California, named Clarence Bullwinkle, just because they thought it was a funny name. The business name was spelled with an EL at the end of Bullwinkle, so Anderson changed the order to LE in order to change it up. Bullwinkle also hosted other portions of the show, including Mr. Know-It-All, Bullwinkle's Corner, and various segues to commercials. One running gag had Bullwinkle trying to pull a rabbit out of a top hat, which would, of course, fail each time.
And now...
Hey, Rocky! Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat!
Again?
Button up my sleeve! Presto! No doubt about it. I gotta get another hat.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Rocky, on the other hand, was considered to be the brains of the duo. He, like Bullwinkle, was very well-intentioned and optimistic, but was very naive and somewhat gullible. Rocky was initially featured as the star of the show, but when it turned out that Bullwinkle was the more popular of the two characters, they rebranded the show's name to just The Bullwinkle Show, and then finally The Rocky and Bullwinkle Show, or The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, when it finally went into syndication. Ward's idea was to produce the show in Los Angeles, but Anderson didn't want to relocate, wanting instead to stay in the San Francisco Bay Area. So Ward then hired Bill Scott to write and co-produce the main Rocky and Bullwinkle featurettes. Bill was known as a storyman when he was working for Warner Brothers, but he ended up not only writing and co-producing the show, but also voicing the character of Bullwinkle J Moose, as well as Mr. Peabody in one of the show's other segments. In a later interview, Scott said that Jay Ward called him up and asked him if he'd be interested in writing adventure scripts for his new series about a moose and squirrel. Scott said, "Sure. I didn't know if I could write an adventure with a moose and a squirrel, but I never turned down a job." Voice actor June Foray was then approached to voice the character of Rocket J. Squirrel. June was already well known in the voiceover community, having worked for Walt Disney on Cinderella and Peter Pan. She also did a variety of characters for Walter Lantz, working on Woody Woodpecker cartoons, and for Hanna-Barbera on the Jetsons, the Flintstones, and Scooby-Doo. She was also the voice of the Talkie Tina doll in the infamous Twilight Zone episode, Living Doll. The cartoon's original concept was an unused idea of Jay Ward's called the Frostbite Falls Review. It featured a group of forest animals running a TV station. The group featured characters like Oski Bear, Sylvester Fox, Blackstone Crow, Floral Fauna, and two minor characters named Rocky the Flying Squirrel and Bullwinkle J Moose. The review concept was soon dropped in favor of the variety show format, and the former minor characters of Rocky and Bullwinkle became the center focus of the show. In most of their adventures, Rocky and Bullwinkle face off against notorious spies Boris Badenov and Natasha Fatale, who work for a dictator known only as Fearless Leader and come from a fictional nation of Pennsylvania. The half-hour cartoon also featured several different shorts sandwiched in between the Rocky and Bullwinkle adventures. One of these segments was the beloved Dudley Do-Rite of the Mounties, which was based on old-time melodramas and silent films. Only a piano was used as a musical background during the episode, which then added to the illusion.
In exactly 5 minutes, Do-Rite, my men, the Furs, and I will be safely across the border. You too will be crossing the border at a much higher altitude.
There was also Peabody's Improbable History, with Mr. Peabody, a walking, talking, super intelligent dog, also voiced by Bill Scott, and his adopted boy companion Sherman. Mr. Peabody and Sherman would travel back through time in Mr. Peabody's invention called the Wayback Machine to visit important historical events.
Hello there, Peabody here. And this is the Wayback Machine for traveling through time. And this is my boy, Sherman. Speak, Sherman.
Hello.
Good boy.
Also included were the Fractured Fairy Tales, which were twisted retellings of classic fairy tales, and Aesop and Son, which dealt with fables instead of fairy tales. The series began serious production in February of 1958, but it took 8 months to find a sponsor. General Mills picked up the show, but only if it could be run in a late afternoon time slot so they could target the advertising towards children. No animators were hired, even though Ward had already hired production staff, writers, and designers. That was because General Mills' advertising agency had set up an animation studio in Mexico called Gamma Productions. Sponsor General Mills thought this would be a great cost-saving measure for the show and persuaded Ward to outsource the animation. This move would turn out to be the cause of many production problems. The animation itself was very basic and unpolished, as it was one of the first cartoons to ever be outsourced. Jay Ward would have the storyboards drawn up and then ship them out to Gamma Productions, where they would do a limited form of animation. Bill Scott later described some of the problems in detail, saying that they found out very quickly that they could not depend on the Mexican studio to produce anything of quality. They would grind out episode after episode as quickly as possible without any type of quality control, and would leave many flaws, mistakes, and inconsistencies in the episodes. Things like disappearing mustaches, Bullwinkle's antlers changing color, and costumes that would vanish. The cartoons would be on the air before anyone at J Ward Productions even saw the finished product. This had an added bonus, however, as network censors also didn't have time to review the show before it aired. They managed to sneak in political commentary, adult humor, and cultural satire into a children's program which would go right over the heads of the younger viewers but would appeal to an adult audience. During its initial run, the show was rescheduled multiple times, airing in the late afternoon, then in prime time, and finally on Saturday mornings. Some segments were also reused in J Ward's other series, Hoppity Hooper, which ran from 1964 to 1967. Rocky and Bullwinkle was first broadcast on November 19, 1959 on the ABC television network under the title Rocky and His Friends. It was shown twice a week in black and white on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons following American Bandstand, where it was the highest rated daytime network program. The show then moved to NBC beginning in September 1961, where it was broadcast in color and first appeared on Sundays at 7 p.m. When it first aired on NBC, the episodes were introduced by a Bullwinkle puppet spoken by Bill Scott. He would mock celebrities, current events, and Walt Disney in particular, who showed the wonderful world of color was the next one on the schedule. Bullwinkle was originally portrayed as a sarcastic, smart aleck character. He actually encouraged children to pull the tuning knobs off of their television sets.
First, a message for all you kids who are watching. Did you know that the knobs on your television set will come off if you pull on them? Right now, why not pull off the knob that changes the channels? It's loads of fun, and that way you'll be sure to be with us next week. And the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that.
The network received thousands of complaints from parents of children who actually did so. The following week, Bullwinkle told them to put the knobs back on with glue and make it stick. The puppet sequence was dropped altogether after this. As a result of airing opposite the hugely popular Lassie, Bullwinkle's ratings began to fall. A potential move to CBS then caused NBC to reschedule the show to late Sunday afternoons and early Saturday afternoons in its final season. NBC finally canceled the show in the summer of 1964 when they shopped it to rival network ABC, but they were not interested at the time. However, until 1973, when the series moved into syndication, reruns of episodes were broadcast on ABC's Sunday morning schedule at 11 a.m. The Rocky and Bullwinkle show, even with its limited animation style, will long be remembered for its intelligent humor, wit, rapid-fire lowbrow puns, and topical writing with adult themes while still presenting down-to-earth humor for the younger generation. In many ways, Rocky and Bullwinkle paved the way for future cartoon trendsetters like The Simpsons, SpongeBob SquarePants, and South Park with its social and political satire and its twisted, sarcastic humor. It truly deserves a hallowed place in television cartoon history. Long live Rocky and Bullwinkle. If you enjoyed this video, stop back for more classic TV and movie trivia, reviews, and retrospectives on Rerun Zone. Goodbye for now.
Oh boy! Can I scrooch him now?
Yes, Clyde. You can scrooch him now.
Don't fail to see our next episode, The Scrooched Moose.